The earth is a physical body with real boundaries. There is a boundary which bounds the physicality of the earth. But the development models with which we move forward doesn't have a boundary. And if you see this ecological economist Herman Daly, he just passed in October this year, he has mentioned that to sustain the growth has to be a steady state. It has to maintain some level of equilibrium. So, but our linear model of development has a challenge. And this study shows that we have already stretched our limits. We have already consumed the earth that we have so far, way back in around 210 or so. And if we want to keep consuming, we would need many, many more earths to live in. And you can imagine this is the challenge of fundamentals of, and I think DDG sir has also mentioned about the need aspect of it. So this is particularly the D aspect of it. You know, you are growing at every possible GDP rate, then you will certainly reach to a place where the red line is taken up. But unfortunately, we have only one earth to live, and where we have to negotiate our own human progress or human story. So recognition of that is also there. You know, many of you know that in the Paris, all around 195 countries came together and they agreed that we would pledge ourselves to arrest the global temperature rise to 2 degrees, if possible 1.5 degrees. Why 2 degrees and why 1.5 degrees? So there is a science behind 1.5 and 2 degrees that at least, you know, the students who are young to, you know, understand, you must realize that 2 degrees centigrade or the 1.5 degrees centigrade is a situation, imagine, is a situation where monsoon is a cyclic process. It is a natural process. It starts from Kerala coast, touches Kerala coast on the 1st of June, reaches Delhi around July, so on, and comes. And then in the December, so the retreating monsoons, there is rain in the southern part of India. So there is a cycle. So if we are not able to arrest the temperature to 1.5 to 2 degrees centigrade, the monsoon may not come, or may come a month later. So if monsoon comes a month later, what is going to happen? India is a country which we live with very, very close to the rhythms of the nature. We do not have any cushion to tolerate the exigencies of the nature. We are not a rich country. The country like United States, European countries, they can have some buffer, they can buy, they can build walls to a rising sea level. They have done it. They can do many other provisions of technology or other interventions, but we just do not have. So the fundamental challenge for us is to look into ways how we can move forward. Now this was Paris in 2015. This is 5 years down the Paris. Paris, we have pledged, every country has pledged we will arrest the temperature to 1.5 degrees. And 5 years down the line, when you do assessment of yourself, that where you have reached, you are no more near that goal. And India is only one country in the G20 nations who is on the track to Paris. No other nation, big economies, maybe small island countries could be there because they are very small and their contribution to such a big global issue is very insignificant. But those who can make contribution to this larger cause, they're just not there. So then comes to COP26, everybody raises their pledges that now we have to do more. So India being Paris compliant, recognizing its potential to contribute responsibility on a global cause, Honorable Prime Minister and the country as such has raised the ambition. There, as dignitaries in the morning have said about the whole concept of life was offered to the world, that how we will move forward, how this climate change is not just a technical. I think again in the morning such wisdom has already been told that climate change issue is just not a technical issue. It is fundamentally a social issue, behavioral issue, ethical issue, spiritual issue. We are just trying to fix from only one angle, as if we are holding an elephant from just the tail. So that is but these type of concepts give us kind of ways to at least move forward in this direction, so that the survival, the existence of the human society remain on this earth for a longer time than perhaps it is appearing. So these are numbers, not much of a significance particularly, but the broad idea of the message is very important, particularly for the students who are listening for the first time. Of course, the dignitaries here, they are very well aware of the broader narrative. So now comes, this is again for the students, it's very important that what does this number mean? 420 on the y-axis. 420 is the carbon concentration in the atmosphere. So the atmosphere has a limit to have carbon concentration before the natural systems tip off. So that is called the 450 ppm scenario, 450 parts per million. If it crosses that concentration in atmosphere, then the temperature rise will shoot up, floods will come out, unprecedented. We can see right now, but beyond the intensity and frequency, all these will. So, but the sad part is that we already have reached 420 parts per million, the concentration. We just have now 30 ppm space to reach to that tipping point. So then it's a challenge of the lifetime, and for a country like ours, I was just thinking that why do we need in a bright daylight Assam campus of IIT the flash halogen lamps here, 8 lamps, maybe downlighters of 40 watt here just to brighten up one speaker. We can do away with that. We can certainly take off these shades from the windows. And until and unless we do not do such small things, our moving forward, negotiating our growth story of providing decent lives and livelihoods to 1.34 billion people, the level of the resources, level of comfort, aspiration, everything, through these narrow lanes. Now the challenge for us, a country developing, a country of our type developing at this position, is that we neither have those easy resources that was available for the developed countries to develop, nor we have the independence, the space to use those resources. Now India is being cornered, that India is using a lot of coal. There is a singling out of the country. In the negotiations in Egypt, India is being projected as the country who is holding on to coal. So we do not have resources we have that in the 19th century we could have used like anything. But now we cannot use. There is a limit that the carbon space puts us. So in that story, the promise of energy efficiency is, you can see in those plots. The red line is the way we are going, and the down blue line 450 scenario is the place where we want to be. That is the place where we will survive ourselves. In the intervention, Dr. Tripta Madam again mentioned about that if the parasites keep doing something, nature has the capacity to throw that parasite out. That has been evident very much during the pandemic. Nature has revived the Ganges are cleaned, you could see many mountains from far off places. So challenge for us to survive is down there, and so for that we have to mend our ways of consumption resources to that level. And to do that, you have a contribution of about 50% that can come from efficiency. So efficiency means 6-watt bulb, 60-watt bulb, incandescent bulb. If you change the LED light 9 watts, 50 watt you are saving immediately, just by changing instantly. So many of the energy efficiency projects, interventions have very small gestation period and also very huge dividends too. And so that is where you have other interventions that this is the International Energy Agency's analysis. It's not our analysis or anything conjecture. So this is a hardcore science behind this. I hope time. So then India is also blessed with many, credentials. India has at least for the energy resource consumption. Of course, the material consumption we have in our cultures and ethos, of course, we have now forgotten or given up. But in energy conservation, we have act. There is a statute, there is a law. And then there is an institution called Bureau of Energy Efficiency. And its sister arms in states also, called state designated agencies. Then the country's commitment toward the global climate change, NDCs. Then we have certain roadmaps that the Bureau of Energy Efficiency under the Ministry of Power have made. And part of Sir, your DG sir was also as a power secretary, part of this whole journey. So these are, those, and also as I said that India is doing fairly well in all this energy resource utilization. That is why the road to promise we are on the track. Now coming to some of the interventions, all of you know this is called Star in Labeling Program. So I would encourage all the students to just visit these websites. There are several appliances where you can, just looking at this picture, you can decide which is better and which is energy efficient, which is not energy efficient. And this is a very successful program. And recognize that many of the manufacturing units, for example, any component or any appliance making industry, approaches Bureau voluntarily comes to Bureau to ask for the labels, because people are asking for the label. People are conscious of, as I think Honorable Governor also mentioned about, that the people at the ground level are today much more informed of the situations, energy resource conservation, costs, several other things. And this is a history you must also recognize. You should remember that when you were young, this has happened in India. It was in 2015 that the LED story started, with the Honorable Prime Minister putting this bulb in. Then 2015 onwards, as of now, 37 crores of LED bulbs have been replaced. The incandescent bulb points have been replaced. So huge savings from these programs, and then the street lighting program. And the big story is that the bulb which was available at 300, 400 rupees at one point in time, now it's available at a market rate, maybe very, very competitive to now nobody, if you go to a shop, today it is very difficult to get an incandescent bulb. That is one also a message of India, that the size matters, the numbers matter. India of size can contribute in that way to bring the cost of bulb, a product, from such a number to that number. So these are the appliances that, again, I would inform that we have around 30 odd appliances where these labels are put in. So you can decide on this. This is not much of a detail, but just to see. Then second is the buildings. You know, buildings, home, everyone, we all live in a home. We live in a building. So buildings are also a source of huge energy guzzler. Studies say that the coming industry would be the future industry would be the buildings. That is what they are saying, meaning that the energy consumption currently is mostly done by industry sector. But in the times to come, the building sector will consume the most of the energy. So why? Because you are making the buildings like air conditioner, smart, so many electronic gadgets, washing machine, dishwasher, many, the things which makes this building so energy intensive. So that is where now the good part in India is that we have a building code where Assam, like states, have already notified where the buildings have to incorporate some sort of energy efficiency measures. And then there is for the household, you would see, if you go to BE's website, you would see a tool which will help you to put your parameters, what type of single unit home you want to build, what wall material you want to put, what windows you want to put, which size, which orientation, and if you do it, you will get a preliminary assessment of the building, that how much it is going to cost, how much it is going to give you the energy saving and so on. So that is also the place to visit and to explore and to do, until and unless everyone in every aspect, whether you are an individual or a corporate or anybody, until that not come from everyone, the program of the challenge of this enormity can just not be solved. So this is industrial program. Again, not to go to the big numbers detail. Accuracy is not it's not an exam. But broad message here is that India has a huge energy efficiency program for industry covering 13 energy intensive sectors like cement, steel, fertilizer and so on. So that particular industrial efficiency program have saved energy of the tune of 22.75 million tons of oil equivalent. Now for you, this also doesn't make much of sense. What 22 million ton? 22 million ton is more than a country like Sri Lanka uses for whole country. Total energy consumption of a country like Sri Lanka is around 15-16 million tons of oil equivalent. So such is the saving contribution that the country like India is making. And in the emission terms, around 90 million tons of CO2. We have program for transport. You would see that there are norms for transport. You would see that BS6, BS4, BS5. In Delhi, many of you know that we are not allowed to drive BS3 petrol vehicle, BS4 diesel vehicles because of the norms of the pollution. So at the end, I would come to a few more slides and I will stop. This is the big picture of the energy story, energy conservation or energy efficiency story. As a country, through various activities of your putting up energy efficiency appliances, industry doing their own industrial efficiency improvement, buildings, some of the people are building very good, efficient buildings, all put together is saving about 5% of the total country's energy supply. So India's total primary supply is around 890 or something million tons. So out of that, we are saving around 42 million tons of oil equivalent. So this is the huge, and the total emission that we are avoiding is 267 million tons of CO2. So country is emitting about 2,800, 2,900 million tons of CO2. Out of that, 267 is being avoided through these measures. So these measures have contribution, and this is going to cause the bigger saving, as the study says that if we want to go to reach the carbon neutrality by 2050, the world has to reduce emission globally by 1.4 gigaton. So in that, our contribution would be that much. We would be contributing 267 million tons of CO2. So how will people, other countries or globally go? That is, we have to see how that happens. So I think I better. So this is again a good picture point to show. You would see that, there is again I can go for here. This picture is, I am trying to show that on the left hand is the Thimphu, Bhutan, and right hand is the New York City. And in the middle there is a picture that shows that a country which consumes more energy is more developed, more the GDP, better life, more progress, everything is attached to that. So the humanity's logical progression is to take the slope from Bhutan to land on the top of Empire State Building in New York. That is the general perception. All of you want to go to US, you want to go to Europe, because that is what we value. So that is the bigger challenge. And people, when you get into the colleges and do research and make public policy documents, you need to at least reflect on these trajectories. You need to think that, is this the only way? Is this the only trajectory for the humanity to travel? So those are the fundamental questions. Until and unless those are not asked, we will keep fixing one technology with another. That technology will create another problem, then you will have another solution, and so on. So then, it is not that people are not exploring. The world is also debating on this, or from many places, the challenges are also coming on this singular narrative. You could see the gross happiness model of Bhutan. You could also see the sufficiency model of Thailand. Please, Google and you start reading all these narratives, the philosophy, the models, and thought behind all them. And then we all know, and also this mention has been made by the DG Power Foundation in the morning, that greed, need, tussle. So that has been given by Gandhi long before. And I think that is embedded in our cultural ethos that everybody knows. It's not knowledge that we do not know it. Then comes the Honorable Prime Minister's announcement at Glasgow that lifestyle for environment. So these are the thoughts that can possibly challenge the singular narrative of moving forward in a unidirectional, uniform, 1 + 1, tomorrow should be anything delta plus today. Why can't we have today equal to tomorrow? Why there are challenges, if you see the Bhutan model, they have tempered the growth speed, the rate of development. They have consciously taken decision not that they cannot grow at 8% or 10%. They could have grown. Their GDP must have grown like anything. But they took a conscious decision for the sake of create that kind of model. Of course, you would question that Bhutan is Bhutan, small country, this country, that country. But then, can there be pockets of Bhutan in India? Can there be pockets of Thailand in India? How these can be put together, and how this India model can be replicated in the rest of the world. So that is my last slide. As we are making presentation here, the polar ice is disappearing and the polar bears are also preparing themselves. They are also getting ready that, there is a challenge up there. We cannot take up, catch sea. So we'll move forward, downward, southward. There are animals who cannot. So the nature of the polar bears will certainly come down before you mend your ways to be part of the process that nature has said. So with that, I stop. Thank you very much for listening.